The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every civilized world had heard the impossible story. Earth had left the Galactic Council. The small blue planet, with its strange, short-lived inhabitants, had done something no species had ever dared to do. On the Council's capital station, emergency sessions ran through the night. Delegates screamed at each other across the Great Chamber. The Cathari Dominion demanded immediate military action. Their war leader, a massive reptile named Vorax, slammed his clawed fist against his speaking platform so hard that he cracked the ancient stone. "We must crush them now," Vorax roared, "before they can prepare. Before this madness spreads to other species. Show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Council." The Syleth representative pulsed with cautious light. "We know nothing about their true capabilities. The human ambassador spoke of hidden weapons, ships we cannot track. Perhaps we should investigate before we act." "Coward," Vorax spat. "Humans are weak. They live barely 100 years. Their bodies break easily. I have killed many of them myself in the border skirmishes. They scream just like any other prey." The Velthari High Speaker listened to the arguments in silence. Its compound eyes reflected the chaos of the chamber, processing thousands of details at once. Something about this situation felt wrong. Humans had always been so cooperative, so eager to follow the rules. For 3 centuries, they had accepted every restriction placed upon them without serious complaint. And now this. The speaker had ruled the Council for 400 years. It had seen ambitious species rise and fall. It had watched civilizations crumble because they did not understand when to submit. But humans were different. They had always seemed to understand the game. They had played it well, earning small favors while never threatening the established order. Unless, the speaker thought, they had been playing a different game entirely. Far across the galaxy, Earth celebrated. Not with parades or festivals, but with quiet determination. In the great cities and small towns, in orbital stations and mining colonies, humans watched Secretary Laura Mitchell address the United Earth Parliament. "For 300 years, we have lived under the Council's shadow," Laura said. Her image was broadcast to every screen on every human world. "We have followed their rules. We have paid their tribute. We have watched them deny us again and again, while they praise themselves for their wisdom and patience." She paused, and her eyes seemed to find every viewer personally. "That time is over. From this day forward, humanity answers to no one but ourselves. We will build our own future. We will expand to new worlds. We will develop technologies they forbade us from even imagining. And if anyone tries to stop us, they will learn why Earth has survived every challenge it has ever faced." The Parliament erupted in applause. In homes across the planet, families gathered around their screens and felt something they had almost forgotten how to feel: hope. But Laura knew that hope was only the beginning. Now came the hard part. In the days that followed, Earth revealed its secrets. The first revelation was Project Sentinel, a defense network that had been constructed in absolute secrecy over 6 decades. Weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields. Automated defense stations buried beneath the surfaces of moons. Ships that could appear from nowhere and vanish just as quickly. Admiral Kevin Price stood in the command center of Earth's primary military station, watching the grid come online. Thousands of green lights spread across the holographic map of human space, each one representing a weapon system that the Council had never detected. "How did we hide all of this?" his aide, a young officer named Tony Grant, asked in amazement. Kevin smiled grimly. "We learned their scanning frequencies. We built everything to avoid detection. We used materials they had never seen before. And most importantly, we never stopped pretending to be the good, obedient species they expected us to be." The second revelation came from Neptune's orbit. where a research station called Horizon's Edge floated in the darkness. Dr. Nathan Cole had spent 30 years of his life here, working on something the Council had forbidden every species from developing: faster-than-light travel that did not rely on the ancient network of jump gates the Council controlled. They called it the Cascade Drive. It folded space in ways that alien scientists had dismissed as theoretically impossible. Nathan had proven them wrong. We can reach any point in the galaxy in hours instead of weeks, Nathan explained to the military officials who visited his station. Their jump gates are useless against us. We can appear anywhere, strike anywhere, and disappear before they can respond. Admiral Price studied the specifications with growing excitement. How many ships have been fitted with this drive? Currently 47, but we can install it in any vessel within a few days. The technology is modular. On the border of human space, the Third Fleet took up defensive positions. Captain Ryan Torres commanded the destroyer Defiance, one of the newest ships in Earth's Navy. He was young for a captain, only 34 years old, but he had been chosen for this assignment because he understood what was at stake. "Contact," his sensor officer reported. "Cathari's Scout Squadron, bearing 047. 5 vessels approaching at high speed." Ryan studied the tactical display. The scouts were small, fast ships designed for reconnaissance. They were testing human resolve, seeing if the threats made at the Council were real or just empty words. "Open a channel," Ryan ordered. The view screen flickered, and a Cathari face appeared. Scaled skin, yellow eyes, teeth designed for tearing flesh. The alien grinned. "Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council travel restrictions. Stand down and prepare to be boarded." Ryan leaned back in his chair. "This is Captain Torres of the Earth vessel Defiance. You have entered human space without authorization. Turn around immediately. This is your only warning." The Cathari laughed. It was a harsh, clicking sound. "Foolish creature. You think your pathetic ship frightens us? The Council will crush your rebellion within a month. Your species will beg for mercy." "Perhaps," Ryan said calmly, "but you will not be alive to see it." He cut the channel and looked at his weapons officer. "Fire." The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. The Cathari scouts had expected humans to flee or surrender. They had not expected the concentrated firepower that turned their ships into expanding clouds of debris. They had not expected the speed with which human weapons locked on and destroyed them. When it was over, Ryan Torres sent a simple message to Earth Command. 5 hostiles eliminated. No casualties, awaiting further orders. The message was intercepted by every major intelligence service in the galaxy. Within hours, military analysts on 1,000 worlds were revising their assessments of human capabilities. The Morvani Trade Guild sent panicked messages to Earth, begging for assurances that trade would continue. Human goods and technologies had become essential to their economy. The Fenari, a peaceful species that had been quietly oppressed by the Council for centuries, sent a very different kind of message. A simple question asking if Earth would welcome visitors. And on the Council's capital, the Velthari High Speaker received report after report of human military assets that had never been detected before. Ships appearing from nowhere, weapons that could punch through shields like paper, defensive systems that seemed to predict attacks before they happened. For the first time in its 4 centuries of rule, the speaker felt something cold spreading through its ancient body. 6 months passed. The galaxy waited for humanity to collapse. The Galactic Council had imposed sanctions that should have crushed Earth within weeks. Human merchants were banned from all Council markets. Human ships were forbidden from using the Jump Gate network. Human citizens on alien worlds were detained for questioning. Every species that had ever traded with Earth was pressured to cut ties immediately. It should have worked. Every other species that had ever defied the Council had crumbled under such pressure. Their economies had failed, their people had starved, they had come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, accepting whatever punishments the Council demanded. But humanity did not crumble. Humanity thrived. The first shock came when Earth revealed its hidden colonies. For over a century, human explorers had been slipping past Council censors and establishing settlements on distant worlds. They had built in secret, using technology the Council did not know existed, in places the Council had never thought to look. 17 planets, 42 orbital stations, nearly 2 billion humans living beyond the borders of known space. The announcement sent the galaxy into panic. How had the humans hidden so many people? How had they built entire civilizations without anyone noticing? What else were they hiding? Ambassador Daniel Carter watched the reactions from Earth with quiet satisfaction. He was no longer officially an ambassador, since Earth no longer had diplomatic relations with the Council. But Laura Mitchell had given him a new role, liaison to the free species of the galaxy. His first meeting was with the Fenari, small fox-like beings with golden fur and enormous ears. Their homeworld had been a paradise once, before the Council decided it would make an excellent source of rare minerals. Now, the Fenari lived in poverty, working in mines that poisoned their air and water, paying tribute they could never afford. The Fenari representative was named Kira. She was barely a meter tall, and she trembled when she first entered the meeting room on Earth's diplomatic station. She had never been in the same room as a human before. Everything she knew about humanity came from Council propaganda. "Please, sit," Daniel said gently, gesturing to a chair. "Can I get you anything? Water? Food?" Kira's ears flattened against her head. "We were told that humans eat other sentient beings." Daniel blinked, then laughed softly. "I promise you that is not true. The Council has many interesting stories about us, I suspect." Slowly, carefully, Kira relaxed. Over the next several hours, Daniel explained Earth's position. Humanity was not looking to replace the Council. They were not interested in building an empire or conquering other species. They simply wanted to be free, and they believed that other species deserved the same freedom. "We are not asking you to fight," Daniel said. "We are not asking you to declare independence or defy the Council openly. We are simply letting you know that you have options. You have always had options. The Council made you forget that." Kira's eyes filled with tears. "My grandmother told me stories," she whispered. "Stories from before the Council came. She said the Fenari used to build things. Beautiful things. Machines that sang, and lights that danced. They made us forget all of it. They told us we were only good for digging in the dirt." Daniel reached across the table and gently touched her small hand. "We would like to help you remember." Similar meetings happened across the following weeks. The Orisi, whose homeworld had been stripped bare centuries ago. The Brant, who still mourned the sister species the Council had allowed to die. The Telani, the Vorusk, the Meme. Dozens of species who had lived under the Council's control for so long they had forgotten there was any other way. Not all of them were ready to act. Many were too afraid, too beaten down, too convinced that resistance was impossible. But seeds were planted, ideas spread, and slowly, very slowly, the galaxy began to change. On the Council's capital, the Velthari High Speaker received daily intelligence reports that made it increasingly anxious. Human ships had been spotted in 17 different sectors, appearing and disappearing without using jump gates. Human diplomats were meeting with minor species across the galaxy. Human technology was being offered to anyone who wanted it, freely, without the restrictions and tributes the Council demanded. "They are undermining everything we have built," the Sileth representative complained during an emergency session. "If the lesser species begin to believe they can survive without us, the entire structure of the Council will collapse. Then we must act. Vorax the Cathari growled. I have been saying this from the beginning. Destroy Earth. Make an example of them. The others will remember their place. The speaker's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. And if we fail? The humans have already destroyed one of your scout squadrons. What if their military capabilities exceed our estimates? Impossible, Vorax said. They are humans. Weak, fragile, short-lived creatures. They cannot match the Cathari in battle. They should not have been able to leave the council either, the speaker replied. And yet they did. They should not have been able to hide 2 billion of their kind from our sensors. And yet they did. I am beginning to wonder what else they should not have been able to do. Deep in human space, Admiral Kevin Price was having a similar conversation with his command staff. They had won the first battle, but they all knew it was just the beginning. The Cathari were proud and vengeful. They would not accept the destruction of their scouts without response. Intelligence suggests they are gathering a fleet near the border, reported Commander Amy Lewis, Kevin's chief of intelligence. Early estimates put it at 600 to 800 warships. The room went silent. Earth's entire active navy consisted of about 200 vessels. Even with the Cascade Drive and advanced weapons, those were difficult odds. They will target one of the colony worlds, Kevin said slowly. They want to make an example, show the galaxy that humans can be beaten. New Virginia is the most likely target, Amy agreed. It is the largest colony, the most visible symbol of human expansion. If the Cathari destroy it, they believe the other colonies will surrender. Kevin stood and walked to the viewport. Stars glittered in the darkness, cold and distant. Somewhere out there, hundreds of enemy ships were preparing to bring death to human worlds. How long do we have? Our best estimate is 3 to 4 weeks. Kevin nodded slowly. Then we have 3 weeks to prepare. Get me Captain Torres, and send a message to Dr. Cole. Tell him we are going to need every Cascade Drive he can build. On New Virginia, Governor Ashley Morgan received the news with calm determination. She was 52 years old, a former Marine who had helped establish the colony 30 years ago. She had watched it grow from a handful of prefabricated shelters to a thriving world of 12 million people. Her advisors urged evacuation. The Cathari fleet was massive. Even if Earth's navy could slow them down, some ships would get through. The civilian casualties could be enormous. Ashley looked out her office window at the city she had helped build. Children were playing in the parks. Families were having dinner in restaurants. Somewhere, a musician was playing a song that drifted through the evening air. We are not leaving, she said quietly. These people built their homes here. They raised their children here. They buried their parents here. This is their world. We will defend it. Her chief of staff stared at her. Governor, the odds are against us. Ashley turned back with a slight smile. The odds have always been against us. That has never stopped humanity before. It will not stop us now. She began giving orders. If the Cathari wanted New Virginia, they would have to take it over her dead body. And she intended to make that very, very expensive. The Cathari fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of angry wasps. 800 warships, each one bristling with weapons, each one crewed by warriors who had been killing since before humans had discovered fire. They formed a wall of steel and death that stretched across the darkness of space. War leader Vorax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Talon, watching his fleet take position. He had commanded the Cathari military for over a century. He had conquered worlds, crushed rebellions, and ended species that dared to challenge his people's supremacy. Humans would be no different. Pathetic, he growled, studying the tactical display. They have sent only 60 ships to defend this world. Do they truly believe such a force can stop us? His second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Thrak, hissed in agreement. Perhaps they hope we will show mercy. Vorax laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. The Cathari do not know mercy. Begin the attack. Leave nothing alive. The fleet surged forward. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Ryan Torres watched the enemy approach. 60 human ships against 800. On paper, it was suicide. Every tactical manual in the galaxy said they should retreat, save what ships they could, fight another day. But retreat was not an option. Behind them was New Virginia, with 12 million civilians who had nowhere to run. If the fleet fell back, those people would die. "Admiral Price is on the comm," his communications officer reported. Kevin's face appeared on the view screen. He was aboard the battleship Horizon, flagship of the Fifth Fleet. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. "All ships, this is Admiral Price. I am not going to give you a speech about glory or duty. You know what is at stake. You know why we are here. The people on that planet are counting on us. Their children are counting on us. Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of." He paused for a moment. "All ships, engage Cascade Drive on my mark. Show these bastards what happens when they threaten our people. Mark." The universe twisted. One moment, the human fleet was in standard formation, a thin line between the Cathari and New Virginia. The next moment, they were everywhere at once. Ships blinked out of existence and reappeared behind enemy lines. Others materialized in the middle of the Cathari formation, unleashing volleys of fire before vanishing again. The Cathari had never seen anything like it. Their tactical systems screamed contradictory warnings. Their targeting computers could not track enemies that refused to stay in one place. Ships that should have been easy prey became phantoms, striking and disappearing like ghosts. Captain Megan Drake of the destroyer Resilience led a squadron of fast attack ships through the heart of the enemy fleet. Her vessel flickered in and out of normal space, appearing just long enough to fire a devastating spread of missiles before jumping away. "Target their command ships," she ordered. "Hit them where it hurts." 3 Cathari cruisers exploded in rapid succession. A battleship lost its engines and drifted helplessly. A carrier took a hit to its fighter bay, and the secondary explosions tore it apart from the inside. Vorax roared in fury as he watched his fleet dissolve into chaos. "How are they doing this? This is impossible." "Their ships are using some kind of short-range jump technology," Thrak reported, his voice shaking. "They can relocate instantly to any point within the battle zone. Our weapons cannot lock on. Then spread our formation. Give them no place to appear." But spreading the formation only made things worse. Human ships appeared in the gaps, picking off isolated vessels with surgical precision. The Cathari tried to concentrate their fire, but by the time they aimed, their targets had already vanished. On New Virginia, Governor Ashley Morgan watched the battle from her command center. Holographic displays showed the engagement in real time, transmitted from drones that floated at the edge of the combat zone. She had never seen anything like it. "They're winning," her military advisor breathed in disbelief. "My God, they're actually winning." But it was not over yet. The Cathari were taking terrible losses, but there were simply so many of them. Some ships made it through the chaos, breaking past the human fleet and heading straight for New Virginia. "Planetary defense systems online," Ashley ordered. "All ground batteries prepare to fire." The first Cathari cruiser entered the atmosphere screaming. It was burning from a dozen hits, but still functional, still deadly. Its weapons charged, ready to unleash destruction on the cities below. Then the ground batteries spoke. 12 stations scattered across the continent fired simultaneously. Beams of concentrated energy lanced upward, cutting through the cruiser like knives through paper. It came apart in a fireball that lit up the evening sky. "Keep firing," Ashley said quietly. "Nothing gets through." Back in space, the battle reached its turning point. Ryan Torres brought the Defiance alongside a Cathari dreadnought 10 times his ship's size. At point-blank range, even the most basic weapons could penetrate heavy armor. All batteries, fire. The Defiance poured everything it had into the Dreadnought's reactor section. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the great ship shuddered, and explosions began rippling across its hull. It broke apart slowly, majestically, like a dying giant falling to its knees. On the crushing talon, Vorax watched his command display turn red. 400 ships destroyed. 200 more disabled. The human fleet had lost only 9 vessels. 9. This cannot be happening, he whispered. It was Thrak who finally spoke the words no Cathari had ever spoken before. War leader, we must retreat. If we continue this battle, we will lose the entire fleet. Vorax wanted to refuse. Every instinct in his warrior's heart screamed at him to fight to the death, to take as many humans with him as possible. But he was not just a warrior. He was the leader of the Cathari military. If he died here, if his fleet was destroyed, there would be nothing left to defend their own worlds. Signal all ships, he said, his voice hollow with defeat. Fall back to Cathari space. The retreat was chaos. Human ships pursued them mercilessly, destroying stragglers and capturing damaged vessels. By the time the surviving Cathari escaped to hyperspace, barely 200 ships remained of the mighty fleet that had come to destroy New Virginia. On the planet below, people emerged from shelters and looked up at the sky. They could see the debris burning in the upper atmosphere, the remnants of an enemy that had come to kill them. They could see the human ships moving in formation above, guardians who had stood between them and annihilation. Some people cheered, some people wept, many simply stood in silence, trying to comprehend what had happened. Governor Ashley Morgan stepped out of her command center and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, Admiral Price and his fleet were securing the system. Somewhere up there, Captain Torres and Captain Drake and hundreds of other brave men and women were making sure the enemy was truly gone. She thought about what the Council had always said about humans, that they were weak, that they were young, that they needed guidance and control. She smiled. The galaxy was about to learn that humans did not need anyone's permission to survive. And when they fought for their homes, for their children, for their future, they were the most dangerous species in the cosmos. New Virginia was safe, and nothing would ever be the same again. The defeat of the Cathari fleet sent shockwaves through every corner of the galaxy. Within hours, the story had spread to every world, every station, every ship that could receive a transmission. 800 warships against 60, and the humans had won. On the Council's capital, the Velthari High Speaker watched the recordings of the battle in silence. Its compound eyes took in every detail. The impossible speed of human ships, the precision of their attacks, the complete destruction of a force that should have been unstoppable. How? The speaker whispered. How did they do this? No one had an answer. The consequences came quickly. The Fenari were the first to announce their withdrawal from the Galactic Council. Their representative, Kira, stood before the Great Assembly with her golden fur gleaming and her ears held high. For centuries, the Council has told us we were weak, she said. Always, we must protect ourselves, that we could not survive alone. The humans have shown us that this was a lie. We are leaving, and we will never return. The Orisi followed within days, then the Brant, then the Talani, the Vorusk, and the Meen. One by one, the minor species who had suffered under Council rule found their courage. They looked at what humanity had done, and realized that they had been prisoners all along, prisoners in a cage they had been told did not exist. Within 3 months, 47 species had withdrawn from the Council. The old order was crumbling. The foundation that the Velthi had built over 6,000 years was falling apart. And humanity watched it all with quiet satisfaction. Ambassador Daniel Carter received the message on a cold morning in December. The Velthari High Speaker wanted to meet, Not a demand, not an order, a request. They are scared, Secretary Laura Mitchell observed during their briefing. For the first time in their long history, they do not know what comes next. Good, Admiral Kevin Price said flatly. They should be scared. They created this situation. They treated the galaxy like their personal kingdom for thousands of years. Now they are reaping what they sowed. Laura nodded slowly. Perhaps. But we did not start this revolution just to watch the galaxy burn. If there is a chance to build something better, we should take it. Daniel agreed. He traveled to neutral space, to a small station at the edge of what had once been Council territory. The Velthari High Speaker was waiting for him, alone. No guards, no aides, just the ancient insectoid leader who had ruled the galaxy for 4 centuries. They sat across from each other in a simple room with plain walls and uncomfortable chairs. 2 beings who represented different futures for the cosmos. I have lived a very long time, the speaker began. Its voice was quieter than Daniel remembered, less certain. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species ascend to greatness and crumble into dust. I believed I understood the nature of power. Daniel said nothing. He simply waited. We underestimated your species, the speaker continued. We saw your short lives, your fragile bodies, your emotional nature. We saw the way you fought among yourselves, the way you struggled with problems we had solved long ago. We thought you weak. Many have made that mistake, Daniel said softly. Yes. The speaker's mandibles clicked slowly, and most of them no longer exist. I understand that now. You showed us only what you wanted us to see. For 300 years, you played the role of the obedient younger species while preparing for this moment. We never suspected. Would you have done anything differently if you had known? The speaker was silent for a long moment. Perhaps we would have tried to destroy you before you became a threat. Perhaps we would have offered you equality sooner. Perhaps we would have done nothing at all, convinced of our own superiority, until it was too late. It made a sound that might have been a sigh. It doesn't matter now. What matters is what comes next. What do you want? Daniel asked. I want to know if there is still a place for the Council in this new galaxy you are creating. I want to know if the Velthari and humanity can exist together, or if you intend to sweep us aside as we would have swept you. Daniel leaned back in his chair and studied the ancient being before him. He thought about everything humanity had suffered under Council rule. The restrictions, the humiliations, the endless rejections. Part of him wanted revenge. Part of him wanted to watch the Velthari Empire burn, the way they had watched so many others burn. But that was not who humanity wanted to be. We want equality, Daniel said at last. Fair trade, freedom of movement, the right to grow without asking permission. We want a galaxy where every species can pursue its own destiny, where no one needs to beg for the chance to exist. And if we agree to this, then we can be partners, not masters and servants, not elders and children, partners, working together to build something that actually works for everyone. The speaker's compound eyes glittered. And if we refuse? Daniel smiled. There was no warmth in it, but there was no cruelty either. Just certainty. Then you will become irrelevant. The Council will continue to shrink. Your power will continue to fade. Eventually you will be just another species in a galaxy that no longer remembers why it ever feared you. The choice is yours. The negotiations took months. There were setbacks and arguments, moments when it seemed like everything would fall apart. But in the end, an agreement was reached. The Galactic Council would be reformed. Old restrictions would be lifted. New members would be welcomed as equals, not subjects. Humanity earned a permanent seat at the table, full voting rights, full participation in galactic affairs. The small species that had left under their example were invited to return on new terms, as partners rather than servants. 1 year after Earth's secession, Secretary Laura Mitchell addressed the United Earth Parliament once more. Her hair had gone fully gray now, but her eyes still burned with the same fire that had carried humanity through its darkest hour. "They feared us," she said, her voice carrying across the great chamber. "And perhaps they were right to. We showed them that we could fight. We showed them that we could win. But fear is not our goal. We left the Council not to conquer, but to be free. Now we must show the galaxy what humanity does with freedom." She paused, looking out at the representatives from every human world, every station, every colony. "We will build. We will explore. We will reach out to other species, not as masters, but as friends. We will create a future where every being in the cosmos has the chance to reach for the stars. That is what humanity does. That is who we are." On distant worlds, children of 100 species looked up at the night sky and whispered stories to each other. Stories about the strange, short-lived beings from a small blue planet who had changed everything. They talked about human courage, human stubbornness, human refusal to accept that anything was impossible. Earth had severed ties with the Galactic Council, and in doing so, they had shown the cosmos that even the smallest voice could shake the foundations of the universe. The stars belonged to everyone now, and the future had only just begun. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest building in the known universe. It floated in the void between stars, a station so massive that it had its own gravity. Thousands of species had walked through its golden doors over the centuries. They came to beg. They came to plead. They came to ask for permission to exist. Today, Ambassador Daniel Carter walked through those doors, knowing he would never return. The human delegation moved in silence through the curved hallways. Their footsteps echoed against floors made of crystal that had been harvested from dying stars. Alien diplomats from 100 worlds watched them pass. Some looked at the humans with pity. Others looked at them with the quiet amusement of those who believed themselves superior. Daniel had seen these looks his entire life. He had spent 40 years serving Earth's interests among the stars, and in all that time, nothing had changed. Humanity was still treated like children. They were tolerated, sometimes even praised, for their simple achievements, but never respected, never feared. That was about to change. The council chamber was a perfect sphere, with seats rising in every direction. Gravity worked differently here, allowing delegates to sit on what would seem like walls or ceilings to human eyes. At the center of it all sat the Velthari High Speaker, an insectoid creature standing nearly 3 meters tall. Its body was covered in emerald-colored armor that was part of its own flesh. Its eyes were compound, made of thousands of tiny lenses that saw everything at once. The Velthari had ruled the council for 6,000 years. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still learning to make fire. They considered themselves the wise elders of the galaxy, guiding younger species toward enlightenment. Daniel knew the truth. The Velthari were not guides. They were jailers. "The petition from Earth has been reviewed," the High Speaker announced. Its voice was a clicking sound that the translation devices turned into words. "Humanity requests permission to establish colonies beyond Sector 7. The Council has considered this request carefully." Daniel stood perfectly still. He already knew the answer. He had known it before he even submitted the petition. This was all theater, a performance meant to remind humanity of its place. "The request is denied," the speaker continued. "Humanity is a young species. You have been part of the galactic community for only 300 years. You must learn patience. You must earn the trust of your elders. Perhaps in another 1,000 cycles, we will reconsider." Around the chamber, delegates from other species nodded in agreement. The Cathari, A warrior race of reptilian creatures hissed with satisfaction. The Sylith, beings of pure energy contained in crystalline shells, pulsed with what might have been approval. The Morvani, small furry traders who cared only about profit, were already calculating how this decision would affect their markets. Daniel looked back at the holographic screen behind him. It showed the faces of Earth's leadership watching from home. Secretary of Global Defense Laura Mitchell sat in the center, her gray hair pulled back tight, her expression impossible to read. To her left was Admiral Kevin Price, a man who had commanded fleets in the quiet corners of space where the Council never looked. To her right was Dr. Nathan Cole, the scientist who had made the impossible possible. Laura gave Daniel the smallest nod. It was time. Daniel turned back to the Council. He took a deep breath and spoke words that had been 300 years in the making. The Galactic Council has made its position clear, he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. For 3 centuries, humanity has followed your rules. We have paid tribute. We have accepted quotas on our population, our technology, our expansion. We have bent our knee to species who have never once treated us as equals. The chamber grew quiet. This was not how rejected petitions usually went. Species were supposed to accept the Council's wisdom with gratitude. We came to you in good faith, Daniel continued. We asked only for the chance to grow, to explore, to become something more than what we are. And 47 times you have told us no. 47 times you have reminded us that we are young, that we are weak, that we must wait. The Velthari High Speaker's mandibles clicked rapidly. Ambassador Carter, you will remember your place. The Council has spoken. Daniel smiled. It was not a friendly smile. The Council has spoken, he agreed. And now Earth will speak. As of this moment, humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. All treaties between Earth and Council member species are void. All tribute payments cease immediately. Our borders are closed. Any vessel that enters human space without authorization will be treated as hostile and destroyed. For a long moment, there was absolute silence. Then the chamber erupted. The Cathari representative leaped to its feet, scales flushing dark with rage. The Morvani screamed about trade agreements and outstanding debts. The Sylith pulsed with frantic light. Everywhere, delegates shouted over each other, demanding to know if this was some kind of joke. Through it all, the Velthari High Speaker remained still. Its compound eyes focused on Daniel with an intensity that would have made most beings look away. Daniel met that gaze without flinching. You cannot do this, the speaker said finally. Its voice cut through the chaos, silencing the chamber. No species has ever left the Council. It is not permitted. Permitted? Daniel laughed. It was a short, bitter sound. We are not asking permission. We are informing you of our decision. That is all. You will be isolated, alone. Without the Council's protection, the Cathari will destroy you within a year. Daniel looked at the Cathari representative, who was already grinning with anticipation. Then he looked back at the speaker. They are welcome to try. The holographic connection behind him flickered, and suddenly Laura Mitchell was speaking directly to the Council. Her voice was iron wrapped in silk. To all species watching this broadcast, humanity offers no threat. We wish only to be left alone. But let me be perfectly clear about something. We have spent 300 years learning from you. Learning your technologies, learning your tactics, learning your weaknesses. She paused, letting the words sink in. We have been preparing for this day for 60 years. We have weapons you have never seen. We have ships you cannot track. We have capabilities that will surprise you in ways you cannot imagine. So please, believe us when we say this. We do not want war. But if war comes to us, we will end it. The connection cut off. Daniel turned and walked toward the exit. The human delegation followed in perfect formation. Behind them, the Galactic Council sat in stunned silence. For the first time in 6,000 years, they had no idea what to do next. And somewhere deep in space, humanity's hidden fleets began to move.